Welcome to Module 16. We're in Chapter 12, the Argumentative Essay, Educational Excellence. So I'd like you to open your book and turn to page 253, and let's just go over the goals for this chapter. And please open up your computer as well to your document, and you can go over it with me. So on page 253, the goals for this chapter, the writing, are to develop an argumentative thesis, right? An arguable thesis. You want to be able to argue for or against a specific position. For example, if I said the internet should be monitored by the government, you could bring arguments for that to support it, or you could bring arguments against it. So pro arguments mean for, and con arguments are against a specific position. So everyone has opinions, and you need to be able to argue for or against a position. So, secondly, how to support and explain arguments, and how to refute or argue against a good argument that someone might have against your position, and then to review cohesion techniques as well. How do you write a paragraph in a way that argues for your position? And then to organize and write an argumentative essay. What are all the parts that you need to write a strong argumentative essay? This, as well, you'll be doing reading, again, 2 reading selections to learn about and discuss issues in education, and to evaluate the support in an argumentative essay. Of course, again, there's vocabulary and grammar exercises in Chapter 12. So if you turn to page 254 and you have your document open, you can see that I've asked you to go to number 2, and under responding to an image, I thought this was a good question. What are some of the things that you typically disagree with your friends? So it's a good chance to begin thinking, brainstorming about what things are you passionate about arguing for or against, right? And with members of your family, or with people with whom you work or you study. So please answer only question number 2, and then I've asked you to write brief paragraphs for the journal writing for both journal writing question 1 and 2. And so you'll have questions here to think about as far as education. And reading number 1 on page 255 is called The Excellence Inevitability of Online Courses. And so this is a very interesting article, because this is the first time you've taken an online course, I'm sure, and this will help you think about the pros and the cons. What are the arguments for online courses, and what are arguments against online university courses? So it's a long essay, and if you look on page 258, I've given you the 5 questions to answer, and I've given you also ways to start answering. So after the ellipses, please put in finish the sentences, and hopefully that's going to help you answer the different points. And you'll notice, especially in question number 4, that I've given you all of the 8 supporting reasons for this article's thesis. And the next reading article is called Let's Put the Excellence Back in the A. So if you get an A in a class, is that an excellent grade, or does everybody get A's, which devalues an A? If everybody gets one, why is it so special? So on page 261, I've given you those 4 questions as well, and I've done the same thing. I've started the answers to each question, and please fill in the answers after the ellipses. And exercise 1 on page 262, if you look there, it's the first vocabulary exercise, and you want to think about different groups of words that will join together and make phrases. So you should be able to figure that one out pretty quickly, and just write A, B, or C in the blank for each group. Exercise 2, you've seen over and over again already word partnerships, and so I would like you to do all 10 of those. I've given you the first one. And exercise 3 is on page 264. If you look over on page 264, and this one's a little bit more difficult. I'm asking you here for each of these topic sentences that you need to write whether it's actually a good argument, and whether it's an argument of preference or just belief, or it's actually fact. And so you're going to write yes or no, and then if it's no, if your answer is no, that it's not a good topic, and there's actually 2, and I've already given you the first one, then, oh, I'm sorry, no, that's not correct. You need to find out which ones are no, and if they're the answer is no, then you need to put P for preference, B for belief, or F for fact. And exercise 4, this is the one here that where you need to figure out if the statement is argumentative, or whether it's just a statement of fact or possibly belief. And then if it is yes, then you need to give just the yes answer, and then no if it's not. And in exercise 5, there's actually 2 thesis statements in exercise 4 that are not argumentative, and you need to change those 2 and make them argumentative. So most of the statements in exercise 4 are already argumentative. They're good thesis statements, but there are 2 that are not. Identify the other one besides number 4, and write an arguable, change it into an arguable thesis statement. And on page 266, exercise 6, I only want you to pick one of these thesis statements, either number 2, question number 2, 3, 4, or number 6. And then please type in the statement, and then 3 statements that are going to argue for that position, and then con means to write statements against that position. So I've given you some practice there. And then on page 267, 268, exercise 7, I only want you to answer question 1 and 2. So I've already started those questions for you, and you can finish them. As well, on page 268, exercise 8, you also have question 1 and 2, and I've given you parts of the answers, and you can go ahead and fill in whatever is after the ellipses, after the blank. Down in exercise 9, the same thing. Fill in the blank after the ellipses. So you're going to be reading some argumentative paragraphs and then answering questions about those argumentative paragraphs. And exercise 10, the last one, I'm asking you to write a short paragraph. Do not write an essay. Okay, so you need to only use question number 5. And question number 5 on page 270 says, one reason we should restrict students' use of computers is that overuse can lead to addiction. So you want to figure out how are you going to write about that specific topic. Are you going to use cause and effect or process, compare and contrast? What are the different genres that you've already used before in other essays that you've written so far? Think about how you're going to write this paragraph. How are you going to arrange it? So I would like you to use the words first, second, and finally. And I've given you the topic sentence already. You can see it at the bottom of the page already. One reason we should restrict the students' use of computers is that overuse can lead to addiction. So you want to give a reason for, right? You're going to argue for, and then what's the first reason? Then give the second reason, begin it with the word second, and then a last reason, and start with the word finally. So that will help a little bit with coherence and make it very, very clear what your 3 arguments are to support that idea right there. That's going to be a pro paragraph where you will argue for that position and not against it. So again, if you have any questions about exercise 1 through 10, about this homework exercise, please send me an email, or you can chat me up on Facebook, and I'm typically on there. I have it open almost all day long, all evening, and you can simply try to chat with me, and I usually see it very quickly and respond very quickly. And I'll see you in Module 17 then.